We'll call the meeting of the Central Yavapai Fire District to order. Roll call, please.
Director Jacobs.
Present.
Director Steele.
Here.
Director Zurcher. Here. And Jeff Wasowitz, the clerk. And Chairman Packard.
Here.
All present.
Captain Merrill, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call to the public. Those wishing to address the Central Yavapai Fire District Board need not request permission in advance. However, we ask that you complete a call to the public forum for the record. The board is not permitted to discuss or take action on any item raised in the call to the public due to restrictions of the open meeting law. However, individual board members may be permitted to respond to criticism directed to them. Otherwise, the board may direct the staff to review the matter, or the matter may be placed on a future agenda. Individuals may be limited to speak for 3 minutes, with a total of 30 minutes allotted for call to the public per meeting. Suzanne, do we have any?
You have 5 speakers, ma'am.
All right, what's your call?
Chris Cupino?
Point of order, Madam Chair. This admonition here that people should only speak for 3 minutes, that's only in cases when you'd expect a room full of people who want to talk for 10 to 15 minutes. That's what the purpose of that 3-minute is, Mayor, and I'm hoping for the course of this evening that you will not be asking that their time be limited to 3 minutes.
I'll let you call.
Madam Chair, that's your responsibility as chairman.
All right, that's 3 minutes, it is.
If I may, I think if there are issues that individuals want to bring and call to the public, they can do that within the 3-minute period. They can provide any other documentation that they have to the board, and the board can determine if it should be agendized. I think that's an appropriate way to do it. If we're talking about a couple of extra minutes additionally, I don't think that that will negatively impact the board's agenda. The difficulty is that I have no idea how long it'll be, and I don't think we're expecting 15-minute periods, but tough to say. And it's always been the board's policy. I guess the board can discuss whether it wants to change that policy. Not agendized for today, but certainly for future meetings going forward.
All right, because it's Christmas, I'll give you 5 minutes.
Okay, we'll try. It's running 6, but I'll kind of boogie through it. Chris Cupino, President, Citizens Tax Committee. Some of the things I witnessed and heard at last month's meeting were very concerning to me and the membership of CTC, so much so that they asked me to speak to you on their behalf. Like most of the public, I thought CAPMA was formed to create a cost and tax savings entity for the public, in which Central Yavapai and Chino would share management and resources. This would provide better service to the taxpayer and lower his taxes. Great idea. What I did not realize is that CAPMA does not share but controls all resources. 2 things gave this away. You gotta ask who spends the time and who spends the money. The Chino Valley Board meeting was a few minutes. CAPMA's meeting took up the entire time slot, and if it weren't for the concerns brought up by board members Steele and Jacobs, the Central meeting would have been very short. While Central and Chino approve a budget, it's CAPMA that spends the money. There is no election by the public for representation on the CAPMA board. It's made up of select members of the other 2 boards. And your own rules state that board member could be removed with or without cause. What's that? Is that rock the boat and you're gone? In the last Central meeting, a board member questioned the rubber stamping of millions of dollars to CAPMA and was immediately told by the attorney they would be breaking contracts, causing lawsuits, upsetting fire services, essentially telling him vote yes or else. This is an elected official. The same attorney represents all 3 boards. When asked what would happen if a conflict arose, he said he would represent only Chino Valley, or Central Yavapai. If an attorney is advising one organization he represents that a proposed action breaches a contract with another organization he represents, there is already a conflict of interest. How is an attorney representing both supposed to provide advice on that issue? And this isn't a hypothetical question, there really are such issues. Let me tell you why this matters. CTC is a watchdog for our tax money. Central Yavapai and Chino Valley boards, they're supposed to act as watchdogs themselves, protecting the interests of their taxpayers. How do they do that if they have no authority or responsibility? If a decision by CAFMA makes sense to Chino Valley, but not CYFD, how are those interests protected? A board member asked if he could record the executive sessions that he has a hearing disability, and he was discouraged by the attorney from doing so, even though the attorney could find nothing prohibiting a board member from doing so. He would still be under the same open meeting and executive session meeting laws, recorded or not. I had to ask myself, why is he trying to hinder the board member's ability to understand the content of the meetings? Where's the transparency? When the board member tried to make a motion 4 times, his head was spun so hard with legalese he never did get the motion out. Staff even grew visibly upset with this board member. From an average guy in the audience, it looked simply like Member Steele and Jacobs were getting bullied by staff, and the attorney should have been helping him to clarify the motion. I heard more than once in that meeting that CAFMA was legal, how effectively neutering the 2 elected boards into bodies without any say was legal. Well, he's doing his job. He's going to tell you what's legal, but it's your job to determine what's right. Slavery was legal, child labor was legal, stealing the natives' land was legal. Thank God people of character stepped in and said it may be legal, but it sure as hell ain't right. I heard one reason Central and Chino could not be truly merged was because Chino was topped out in its assessment, and the rate for Central would have to rise, and that would never get approved by the voters. Well, here's an idea. Lower Chino's assessment to Central's rate. Heck, take it to the voters and ask if it would be okay to lower their taxes. Central is doing well at their rate. Chino should be able to do the same. Then you could dissolve Central, you could dissolve Chino, and let the taxpayer elect the board of CAFMA, and we'd be good to go. We would get representation for how our tax dollars are spent. Maybe representation split into districts. So large areas like Williamson Valley, which was almost wiped out by wildfire, could have had a voice on the board, something they don't have now. Representation reflected by the entire population instead of just Chino and PV. We were told combining resources would have a huge cost savings. Are these savings for CAFMA to use towards growth, or are they passed on to the taxpayer? I looked up different tax bills in neighborhoods and they're steadily increasing. Many of you board members like myself spent our careers in the private sector. If we weren't growing, we were dying. Build the company, bigger is better. It's not supposed to be the same in government, and never forget that you represent the public's best interest. We put you here. You are not part of or employed by the fire district. Your job is to ensure the public's money is spent responsibly to provide quality medical services to the areas you cover. When you give out raises and step increases CAFMA-wide, but Chino is maxed out on what they can assess the taxpayer, where does that money come from? Does it come from Central's population? Are the people of Prescott Valley now subsidizing the Chino district? The new administration building, which is utilized by CAFMA, was paid for exclusively out of funds generated by Central Yavapai. It seems to me that Central Yavapai is basically subsidizing Chino, which gets the benefits of this new building while paying nothing. Maybe that's legal, maybe it's not.
5 minutes.
And you know what? I tell you what, let me do this last one, because this is probably the most important paragraph. I was almost there anyway. Can I have 1 minute?
1 minute.
I've traveled the world, Chair, and I feel that our 911 and emergency services are second to none. If you need help, you're going to get it, and you're going to get it quick. At the last CTC meeting, I asked everyone who felt they were getting quality services from the rank and file firemen, and every hand went up. We feel we have a professional, well-trained group of men and women in both districts, and it was very important to the membership that I pass that along to you. I've spoken with a few of you and expressed that there's nothing I've spoken about that can't be fixed. In fact, CTC would love to be part of fixing it. We're not against taxation. We just demand that our money be spent wisely and prudently, and we get representation for the taxation. We want integrity from those we employ and elect. You're the elected. You can make changes. Use your discernment to analyze if there's a difference between legal and right. And we ask you to review CAFMA, how it was set up, staffed, and how to best make sure that those who are taxed get representation for that taxation. And I truly thank you for that extra time.
Thank you for your comment.
Madam Chair, I think it's really inappropriate that the chief is the one that's got the clock. It's the board clerk's responsibility on timing. Thank you.
You want to stop watching on the phone?
Ned?
You know that the citizens respect all firefighters, but we're asking you to respect the citizens of Yavapai County and everyone in there. This really, the creation of CAPCON really needs to go before a vote. You're spending lots of money, we have no say in it. And again, when I watched that video, and it said, well, it's gonna cost $70,000, we legally don't need to do this. That's really very disrespectful, because I question then, how much is a vote worth? How much is an election worth? Plus, then a raise was given, and then Chino couldn't pay it because they were levied out, so Yavapai had to pay it, and I'm like, I'm a taxpayer, so why am I paying for them? All of this just simply doesn't make sense. And again, what are you afraid of? Let this go to the voters. Let us have a decision about the creation of this board and where our money's going. I think that's only right. Thank you.
Red?
Larry Jacobs. Larry Jacobs.
Good evening, members of the Central Yavapai Board. My name is Larry Jacobs, and I've been a resident of the Central Yavapai Fire District for the past 20 years. Prior to retiring, I was a law enforcement official with 34 years' experience in a major law enforcement agency in the state of Arizona, where I supervised high-level investigations in the area of organized crime. As a board member of the Citizens Tax Committee, I was assigned as a liaison to the fire districts due to efforts organized to create the Central Arizona Fire and Medical Authority, CAPMA, to determine the effects it would have on the taxpayers. I started to compile information through public records requests in July 2016 and first obtained a copy of the Joint Powers Agreement to understand how the new operation would be structured and the effects it would have on the taxpayers. During the course of my research in August 2016, members of the Citizens Tax Committee had a meeting with members of the CAPMA Board, Fire Chief, Administrative Assistant Chief, and Board Attorney. During these discussions, questions were asked by members of CTC concerning the purchase of the new administration building located at 8603 East Eastridge Drive and answered by CAPMA board members, fire officials, and the board attorney, providing us with their assurance that everything concerning the purchase was in order. Not feeling comfortable with their explanations, I started my own investigation concerning the 4/18/2016 CYFD check for $50,000 to Pioneer Title for earnest money deposit on the new administration building. Based on the public records request that I submitted to several governmental agencies, I discovered that the check created on 4/18/2016 may have been forged, since it was not the name that we were given by the board chair that was the second signature on the check. Consequently, I contacted the board member whose name was on the check and found that he did not sign the check or give permission for anyone to use a signature stamp for the check. I was alarmed to hear that CYFD utilizes a stamp machine to prepare checks because it invites the opportunity for criminal activity in the form of fraud. I have obtained an affidavit from the board member involved, which I plan to present to the board if I was placed on the agenda. Since the board chair and fire chief have chosen not to allow me to be on the agenda, I request that I be on the next future agenda in the form of a special meeting or the next scheduled CYFD board meeting to provide evidence to the board that I request that CYFD board approve a resolution to approve and support an independent law enforcement investigation into this matter. I plan that since the offense involves document crimes which require extensive expertise that the Arizona Department of Public Safety Criminal Investigation Bureau has, it should be contacted to conduct the investigation. If the board fails to place me on the next agenda concerning the matter, I will ask for the investigation. Thank you for your consideration in this matter.
Thank you for your comment.
5 seconds to spare.
Thank you. I tried to speak
Any
fast.
closing comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing that extra time that we need.
Al Gibbons?
Hi. Hi, I'm Al Gibbons, I actually live in Chino Valley, and this is my situation, what I've got to say, applies to Chino Valley as well as the residents of UV, Wilson Valley. I would like to vote on this whole CAF notice. I've asked, before we were organizing this room, I asked for a copy of the agreement, all the documentation I was assured I'd be provided on. I don't know what, so that was like a sound situation. Never had a chance to examine it, and we'll put it out to other people to look at. Many people I've talked to, they want to vote on what's going on, they're sick of what's happening, we've lost a lot of trust with the organization. If I was taxed by Central Yavapai, as is your tax people on PBL, I would be outraged if I was supporting Chino Valley. I would be, who's got to have the tar and feather cat committee here? As a Chino Valley resident, I'm embarrassed by that situation, that our friends in PV are having to subsidize us like we're some kind of welfare case. It's just an awful situation of how that's evolved, and it's just a classic example of what's wrong with this organization. Another real concern is there's a lot of money being wasted. Well, for any board member to contact me, and I'll tell you specifics, dates, times, places, as well as other situations, where money is being wasted that the taxpayers are not aware of. A lot of it, so the thing that's obvious to everyone is a minor thing, but it's still obvious, is the personal use of fire department vehicles for their own personal use. Going up to the store multiple times, box of cookies, going over to Taco Bell, the credit union, getting a red box movie. Those are things I personally observed. Getting your own mail in civilian clothes in a fire department vehicle, which is a government vehicle. Your own personal mail. I asked the guy, whose mail is that? Well, it's my mail. You want to do it? No, I'm not. Just getting the post office. I mean, there's a lot of waste there. It's not these guys' fault. It's God's fault. Management is the one who allows those things. The employees will do whatever is allowed. They're allowed to do these things. Taxpayers are paying for them. A lot of poverty in this county, PV. You address that in your own department as well as ours. It's not these guys' fault, it's this fault right here for allowing it. One other thing I want to note, you folks all make eye contact with all your speakers. These two don't. I don't know what metropolitan area they're from, where they learned that. They don't have the courtesy to even make eye contact with the speakers. Working away on, it's very poor when you're our employees. We do not work for you, you work for us as citizens. All right, the people remember that. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Jacobs.
I'm going to sit here for the microphone so that Tom Steele is able to hear what I have to say. Actually,
Just a quick question, since
I'm
do I
calling
still
for
have
the
the
public.
time, I still have the time, board member?
No,
I
you
got
do
time
not.
to-
You do not. If I was put on the agenda, I would have been able to explain this, but I was refused. So I'm an elected official, and I'm going to read this. Tom Steele and I revoke any waiver of conflict of interest, if any, that you may have signed in the past as Nicholas Cornelius due to his multiple conflicts of interest in representing all three fire district boards, which have different interests, financially and otherwise, and which are now starting to face challenges to the legality of CAFM structure that Mr. Cornelius created and sponsored along with Chief Freitag. So he also has a conflict of interest as the fire chief for all three fire districts, among other conflicts. I have a revocation of waiver of conflict of interest of the fire district attorney. Tom Steele's name is on it as mine, and I'll read what it says. The undersigned hereby, if there is any signed waiver of conflict of interest, Central Yavapai Fire District Attorney Nicholas Cornelius, revoke any such waiver. Mr. Cornelius should cease from representing this fire district and any matter involving either of us or either of the two fire districts or any related to the complaints of the fire chief Freitag against Director Vicki Lee Jacobs. Signed, Tom Steele and Director Jacobs, and that's a copy for you, and I also will make a copy for the attorney. You can actually just forward it over here, up here. This is for Nicholas Cornelius. To the board clerk, that's the proper protocol. Thank you.
All right. Right, consent agenda. All matters listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the Central Yavapai Fire District Board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately for discussion and possible action.
Madam Chair, I would like to have A, B, C, D, and G removed for further discussion during this meeting, please.
A, B, C, D, and G.
G is in George.
So the consent agenda items that we will consider are E, approve general fund financial statement. F, approve bond debt service financial statement. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Or a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So now we'll go back to item A, approve regular session minutes, approve executive session minutes of October, both of them were October 23rd, approve regular session minutes November 27th, approve executive session minutes November 27th, and that was it. What, G? Transfer November revenue from Central Yavapai Fire District to Central Arizona Fire and Medical Authority in the amount of $1,362,262.22. What is the discussion for these?
Madam Chair, I object to vote I'm objecting to voting to approve these minutes because I went to the administration office in Prescott Valley a couple weeks ago and I was trying to listen to the audio recording of the October meeting and the November 27th audio recording using the small portable recorder that was provided by Suzanne Dixon and Laura Mallard, the CAFMA staff. And I went into the conference room and spent at least an hour, maybe a little bit longer, trying to listen to these two recordings to verify what was on the minutes. But the audio quality was so poor that I could not understand the different people and what they were saying at any given time during each one of these meetings. As an example, Attorney Cornelius was speaking and I was looking at the time and it was over 7 minutes and there was only 3 or so lines of what was actually said and you could not make out what he was saying. A lot of times the chief and Cornelius are talking back and forth and you can't hear what they're saying to make sure that the minutes are accurate. A lot of times when the attorney is giving legal advice, especially in executive session, we need to make sure that we have every bit of what he is saying in those minutes. And I don't believe that everything was actually recorded appropriately. This is the same problem that Tom Steele had. As a result, I object to any vote to approve these minutes until after both Tom Steele and I have the opportunity to adequately hear and review the audio recordings of these meetings. And I move to table for the approval of these minutes until we are provided with the opportunity to review the audio and actually hear it in a reasonable manner.
Madam Chair, if I might, I've been wearing these hearing aids for about 4 years, and probably should have worn them for 4 years before that. But basically all they do is amplify. So when people are speaking fast, clipped words, The same thing is like watching a movie at home. If people are watching, they're speaking very fast and very clipped. It's very difficult to understand, comprehend what they're saying in its entirety. And particularly with what we are doing and what we are putting out there is a matter of record for anybody that would ask for a public record that was not able to attend the meeting. It needs to be clear and concise. Now, I really feel that the minutes are much, much better than they were 3 months ago. Okay, I will concede that. However, my needs are still not met, and I will be discussing those later, but I want to support Director Jacobs with the comments that she made. Thank you.
So again, Madam Chair, I'm making a motion to table the approval of these minutes until we are able to provide with the opportunity to review the audio and actually hear it in a reasonable manner.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Just a question for you, Vicki. Is the recording good enough that you're actually going to be able to hear it?
It's horrible. And this is not a negative reflection on the girls, because I even went to them and I even told them, and they'll verify it, I feel bad for them, because how are they able to even type, you know, and
And that's my
understand?
question is, more time listening to an unintelligible recording will help? If the recording's terrible, it's terrible. That's the record we have, and that's all there is. You're not going to be able to recover it, whether you listen to it one more time or 5 more times. I just want to be sure that if the problem's the recording and you're never going to, you know, that's what
But
we
is
have.
there another venue as to what we've been doing that would give better clarification for people to view the audio?
Going back to October and November, was something, you mean, I don't understand, was someone else
Is there
recording?
another form of communication that is being used that would give a better audio for people to review to ensure that the minutes are correct?
I don't know, I'm only aware of.
Well, I think that it's important that we start considering getting better audio equipment so that we can have proper documentation where people can hear it when they want to go in and review it, just to make sure.
Yeah, that I agree with, but I'm just wondering, looking back, it seems like what we got is what we got. I don't know if more time's gonna help or not. You know, I'm not arguing with you, I just want to be
Right.
clear on what.
Okay, well. Matt?
Then I'm curious, I mean, I do have concerns about the audio. That definitely is a concern of mine. But you know, on the video, recordings, is the audio better on those?
Well, that's what I'm going to actually go to Prescott Valley and get the public records, and I need time to do that so that I can review it.
Nick, do we have any, how much time do we have to review and approve minutes? Is there any sort of a
Well, there's
statute or guideline?
Yeah, there's a 90-day, thanks. So there's a 90-day window provided by statute for purposes of maintaining recordings. And I understand we're doing that. I don't know if there's another methodology. I think that these are new, for example. So these may allow the actual speakers we're using, or microphones we're using today. At the new admin building, I understand that there's a new system there. This system is going to be improved so that it may in fact provide a better record. But I'm not sure how we do that going backwards. I mean, if Director Jacobs or Director Steele want to review the video which is made and which is posted on the website, I think that's possible to do. That's not going to address the issue related to executive session.
Right, it's not.
It would only address the issues related to the open meeting section. So, I think that staff is working now as we speak to address, for example, with these or with the system which is in place over at the admin building. And based on the requests of Director Steele and Director Jacobs, I think that there's more detail that's apparent. I want to be clear, it's not supposed to be a transcript. That's difficult to do. But if there are specific things which need to be amended or appended or added to, I think it's appropriate for directors to do that.
And I do have to say, I think a lot of the 7-minute things could be boiled down to 3 sentences when Nick's speaking, but that's
It's true.
It is.
Oh, we have a second motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor of tabling it?
tabling
The.
A through
the
D.
Approval
A,
of.
B, C, and D.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
No. Abstain?
No, I was too slow on the I.
One
I vote in favor of deferring, waiting another month.
Items are tabled until next month. Oh,
G.
G. Discussion about G.
Currently, I object to any vote to approve this transfer of CYFD funds to Kaplan until this board receives the legal advice of a qualified lawyer who does not have any conflict of interest. And I plan to continue to vote no on these transfers of the funds to Kaplan until we receive the legal advice of a qualified lawyer who has no conflict of interest. And that lawyer needs to be chosen by someone other than Chief Freitag or Attorney Cornelius.
And I support the comments that have just been made in its entirety.
Is
So the motion, your motion would be to,
My motion is that I'm voting no, and I gave an explanation.
Okay.
Because prior meetings, I needed to give an explanation, and now I gave one.
Okay, so, is there a motion to approve item G?
Madam Chair, I'll move to approve item G, transfer November revenues from Central Yavapai to CAFA in the amount of $1,362,262.22.
Is there a second?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Excuse me,
What?
we have a no vote here.
Oh,
You didn't call for it.
may I
That's
have it?
proper protocol, Madam Chair. No.
Well, you already said no. Record skill, all right. 3-2, motion carried.
No, Madam Chair, he's abstaining, correct, or no vote?
No, I said a no vote this
No
time.
vote, okay. Sorry, just-
All right, Chief Polachak, where are you? Chief Polachak is going to lead everyone to another room that's warm and dry.
Thank you.
And may I have a motion to go into executive
I'll make
session?
that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Call back to the regular session. Old business, discussion and possible action related to training center drainage issue. And Nick, you have your direction. All right. New business. Appointment of the fire board chairperson and clerk.
Madam Chair, I would like to nominate Jeff Gottowitz as chairman.
I second that.
Any discussion?
Jeff is pining.
Give some speech, sir.
I mean, I appreciate the confidence in your nomination, although I don't feel I have the extra time that is required by the chairman to commit to the organization. I see what else is required, and I'm not sure that I'd be able to do the job justice, but I do appreciate the vote of confidence on your hands, but I have to decline the nomination. Thank you, though, sincerely.
I don't know if there's any basis for declining. If nominated, you must serve.
He's declined. So,
Just having some
go
fun.
ahead.
We have to, parliamentary procedure, we have to drop a motion then, and then a second. So,
Yeah. So I think there would have to be a vote, but I understand that he declines
Yeah,
to serve, so.
But I just want to make a motion for Jeff Botzowitz as the chair.
And I seconded
And I think it's been seconded.
Okay.
And, yeah,
All in favor?
Aye.
aye. Well, he's declining.
Well,
So, Madam Chair, since Mr. Botzowitz is declining, then I would like to nominate myself because I'm one of the 2 longest board members with a lot of knowledge as to things that have been going on from the inception. And now that I'm retired, I have more than enough time to put in as a chairperson.
I might say that I'm the oldest serving person on this board. I mean, in 2 ways. One is my actual chronological age, and the other is I was appointed to this board the month before the hot shots were killed in the fire. However, I don't consider myself capable of, in all the capacities necessary to do that. So I would support Director Jacobs for chair for this upcoming year, in my final year on the board.
Any discussion?
Sir, is that a second? Are you seconding the
I'm sorry?
motion? Are you seconding the motion?
Yes, I'm seconding.
Thank you.
And any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Okay.
So in that case, I vote to keep the status quo, you as chair and Jeff as clerk.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I think it's a second. I'm willing to continue as clerk.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Nay.
Motion carried. Right. Budget schedule.
Madam Chair, members of the board, regretfully, Chief Fire was unable to attend this evening. What you have before you is the budget schedule that he put together. It follows the standard protocol year to year for what we do as far as setting up, working towards finalizing the budget. There will be joint board meetings again this next year. So we're just looking for the CYFD board to approve the schedule as it's written and proposed.
Is there a motion to approve the schedule?
So moved.
For a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Oh. You want to-
Listen. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. So we'll be hearing more about that.
Yes, ma'am.
Discussion and possible approval of request for ADA accommodation for Director Steele. Chief?
I think it's Director Steele.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I have previously made an Americans with Disabilities Act
Tom.
complaint.
Would you speak into
You gotta
the...
be like right on the mic. You gotta be right on top.
Okay, I can hear, but I can't speak. Okay. I have previously made an Americans with Disabilities Act complaint to the Arizona Attorney General's office about this board and its lack of cooperation with my long-term, first several years complaints about my inability to hear.
I'm sorry, but they probably can't hear you. You're muffling it.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Is that better?
Can you hear it now?
Like I'm eating it right now?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
You have to be right.
All right. I will repeat myself. I have previously made an Americans with Disabilities Act complaint to the Arizona Attorney General about this board's ongoing lack of cooperation with my long-term, for several years, complaints about my inability to adequately hear what is being said at the CYFD meeting. I want to do a good job as an elected official. Any of the unwillingness of this board and fire chief and attorney to allow me reasonable accommodation in the form of increased microphone volume or for other accommodations for all speakers at our meetings, and having the meetings at the best available location for accommodating my hearing difficulty, which means our expensive new administration building in Prescott Valley with its new sound equipment and also speaking up during the meetings instead of all these private conversations. And I would only add to that is that part of my complaint to the Attorney General's office was related to the fact that I requested a personal copy, make my own personal copy with my own machine, my own blank tapes, to hear the minutes, or to hear the audio recording of the meetings, so I could play them back and forth, portions that I was concerned about at home at my leisure without taking up staff time. That was my original request, and that has failed to materialize, and I have yet to have clarification, even though the statute says my request has never been heard before, and I am totally duty bound, particularly with the executive sessions. I'm bound either way to not release that information. So to me, it would be totally in order for this board and the attorney, who also works for me as a board member, to approve my recording this material on a monthly basis so that I can properly report back and approve the minutes as sent to us 4 days after the meeting. That concludes my remarks and my concerns.
Madam Chair, I'd like to address our policy. We actually do have a policy, 5.6, for the Americans with Disability Act in CYFD's policy. And I'm just going to read part of it here. We are responsible for complying with this federal law as well as the state laws. Employers must provide equal employment opportunities for qualified individuals with disabilities, provide they can perform the essential functions of the job. Employers are required to make reasonable accommodations for the known physical and mental limitations of qualified disabled applicants and employees, and for public access to services and facilities. And the policy statement is, it shall be the policy of the Board of Directors of the Central Yavapai Fire District to adhere to all of the applicable laws, regulations, and guidelines of the Americans with Disability Act related to employment, facility, access, and the delivery of services and the programs. I know that, Tom has mentioned this, in his time on the board, that sometimes he has a hard time hearing people. He'll ask people to repeat it. And so this has been a long series of concerns and complaints about his inability to adequately hear what people are saying, and then his inability to hear the audio recordings, which I know are bad, and I brought that up here earlier in the meeting, to simplify, comply with the ADA law and the board's own policy. And that's what I would like to make sure that, this should not require a discussion or a vote. We just need to comply with our own policy and the federal and state regulations on the American Disability Act.
Well, I agree that it doesn't require a vote, but I would like staff to update the board where we're at with our audio, our facilities, and what we can do going forward.
Absolutely. Madam Chair, members of the board, Director Steele, We put these in use this evening. This should be the last time we're at this facility. These mics are antiquated and may not provide what you need. But we are moving to the Town of Chino Valley Council Chambers, which has a great audio system and also has a podium for call to the public, which has a microphone as well. And that will allow a better opportunity, a better environment for you to be able to hear. As far as the new admin building, we have a good sound system there. Last time was the first time that everybody used it. There's actually a volume control. We don't control it. There's a volume control on the board members' microphones at that facility. The other part of that is we have to remind all the board members, please get up close to the mic because all of these are directional. And that was one of the problems we had at the last meeting was that everybody was sitting back in their chair instead of getting up like this and getting into the microphone. It'll be similar at the Chino Valley Town Council chambers, and that they're directional microphones, so you have to be right on top of them to be able to hear. The other thing that we've done at the new admin building is we pulled an old podium out of where it's stored here, and Captain Zizweta, thank you to him, he completely refinished it for us, and I ordered a microphone stand today so that wireless mic that we had at the last meeting that we were offering up, that will be affixed to a podium, so anybody that comes up and speaks will have that microphone right there. And if they're not coming across the system, we'll ask them to get closer to the mic. That one's not as directional because it's a regular microphone. But I think that should take care of a lot of those issues and will improve the quality of the recordings. But again, for the board members, where I am, this is kind of where you need to be in order for the sound to come across the systems. So those are the things that we're putting in place. Specifically related to this item today, Director Steele, we had Chief Polachek come out here, pull this system out, dust it off, and see if he could get it working for us. So thank you, Chief Polachek, for getting that done. Just to make things a little bit better and try to accommodate you this evening in this facility.
I think what's been discussed will work. The remaining element is support for having me be allowed to make a recording at my own time and expense so that I can bring it home in those cases where I've had difficulty, when I say comprehending as much as hearing in those. And that's what I'm asking for at this time, is permission to make those tapes.
And then, for the record, I believe we discussed this at the last meeting, that anybody could actually bring in a personal recorder and record a regular session meeting without any problems. I know then it was, you brought up the fact that we don't allow executive session meetings to be recorded by no one except staff. And so I believe that was discussed at the last meeting, correct?
That is correct. And I heard Mr. Kupnio making some remarks about that early on in his statement, and I think I'll just say, I think he mischaracterized the advice that I gave. I think that's what he was referring to, but I'm not sure. In any case, what I will do is revisit the issue with the Attorney General's office on the basis of an ADA claim and C. And just to clarify my previous remarks, it wasn't that there was nothing that said it can't be done. What there was a whole series of cases that talk about how it has to be maintained as confidential and that additional recordings should not be made, and that the Attorney General's office had never seen an instance where that was allowed. So I just want to be clear that I think it was a little different than, in fact, I think the opposite of what Mr. Kupnio was suggesting. So I want the board to be clear. The policy is don't do that under any circumstances. It's my expectation they've dealt with ADA issues before, but I intend to revisit it on that basis with them because I didn't discuss it in any detail on an ADA basis. The whole focus was related to anybody who wanted to make a recording. But I'll pursue it on that basis and see if I get different advice.
Well, to me, this shouldn't make anybody squirm in their seat, because the fact is that I'm sworn to the secrecy of the executive session as a board member. Therefore, if I were to spill the beans to anybody else, I would be as guilty of doing that with or without my recordings. And I'll be glad to turn in the tapes when I'm done with them and let whoever dispose of them, because I don't necessarily want to be caught with that liability myself, but to me, I'm curious with the Attorney General's office that I haven't even heard from them.
Did they not respond to you at all, sir?
No, I have requested, I returned receipt requested, so I know they got it, and I think today or tomorrow, it'll be 4 weeks.
And just to be clear, I'll say this on the record, that I have been advised on several occasions. That's why I know that this board has instructed me to get opinions from the Attorney General's office with regard to capital before it was created. The Chino Valley Board wanted something similar. I have been advised several times by people at all levels in the organization that they do not represent fire districts and they will not give legal advice. That's why the nature of my conversations is that I speak to people in the office, as I think I described to you, and I give you the specific details. And their suggestions are essentially informal advice, kicking the issue around with me, not giving a formal opinion in any way, shape, or form. And I got that as a disclaimer during the course of that discussion. So nothing I can do about that, sir, is essentially what I'm saying.
Well, I don't
Same
know if I
answer
can
to the
make a
board.
visit down to Mr. Abramovich's office, but if necessary, I will.
You know, sir, you should pursue it as you deem. I'm gonna make the phone call and I'll report back. I think I was perfectly responsive during our conversations last time around, but I'm not in a position to overrule the advice of the Omni unit.
Well, I'm gonna try. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Just had a question, Madam Chair. Chief, is it possible to look into a device similar to what they have at the library auditorium for the town of Prescott Valley for the press and also the hearing impaired, that would basically, a radio that it would, basically play, the sound of the meeting?
James?
Have to get some information on what they have, I think, we can look at that.
I definitely think, not just for, direct appeal, but I think for the public, I definitely think that's something that we need to definitely
We
pursue.
will, excuse me, when we come back from the Christmas holiday, we'll make contact with the town of Prescott Valley and find out what they're utilizing, and see what it would take to implement that for us as well. And we can find out from the town of Chino Valley if they already have something like that in place.
Yeah, and that's definitely going to be putting us in compliance with federal law, because we really should do that.
So, yeah, maybe after this meeting, you could just give me an idea of what it is.
Appreciate it. No, I'll definitely do that. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Director Skill, anything else?
I'm sorry?
Anything else?
No, I think the key ingredient would be, one, we get a quality piece of equipment for recording, and that I receive permission to make my own audio recording on such occasion as I would need it. Those are two issues that are pending as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Anything else?
No.
Well, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right.